What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing another discussion-based video, but this time we're going to talk about some major revelations that we've gotten from the Star Wars universe. Questions that we've had all the way since The Force Awakens, and exactly what led to Kylo Ren's fall to the dark side and his transformation into Kylo Ren. We'll also be touching on a lot of the major theories for the Knights of Ren. We previously made a Knight of Ren theory video, but that's kind of null right now after we learned some more information on who and what the Knights of Ren really are. So unfortunately, we won't be able to release that video because it's out of date now. But today, we're going to be talking about what happened to Luke Skywalker's Jedi students, Kylo Ren's sort of first steps to the dark side of the Force, and I think it's really interesting to talk about it in this more discussion-based platform, get a whole lot of more information and a whole lot of more of the point of view of Kylo Ren Ben Solo. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the groundwork real quick on the new information that we're getting. I'm joined with Anthony, by the way.
Hello.
And this is all coming from the Rise of Kylo Ren comic book from the first issue. It's going to be a miniseries. It's like 4 to 6 parts, I believe. But the first issue will jump back and forth between 2 time periods.
Okay.
The first time period will follow Ben Solo and Luke Skywalker as they venture into the unknown regions of space to explore a group that they're not really familiar with, but that they will eventually come to conflict with. The two of them, master and apprentice, and that's the Knights of Ren. And on the cover, we actually see one of the Knights of Ren with a lightsaber, but we'll touch on that a little bit later.
It's pretty interesting.
The other portion of the comic book will follow Ben Solo immediately after he crushes the Hutt on Luke Skywalker. And this is kind of where we learn the fate of the Jedi students a little bit, or at least get hints at them and disprove one major theory. That being that the students of Luke actually decide to pursue Ben Solo because they believe Luke has been killed.
Yeah.
And Ben Solo goes to Snoke, which in the synopsis is referred to the only friend that he thinks he has left in the whole galaxy. As of course we've detailed before, he feels in The Force Awakens very much that his father and his mother have completely abandoned him, that they sent him to train with Luke Skywalker just to kind of get rid of him because they were afraid of him. That's very much something that's addressed in the books. And so he kind of perceives Snoke as his only friend figure in the whole universe.
Yeah, I'm assuming that Snoke probably kind of planted those ideas in Kylo Ren more so than Kylo Ren just genuinely feeling abandoned. You know what I mean? Not that like Han Solo would be the greatest dad in the universe or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure a turn like that was probably more provoked by Snoke as opposed to Snoke seeing that there was a really conflicted Ben Solo.
Right.
I'm sure that Snoke probably caused most of the confliction.
You're right. And we know through lines in The Last Jedi that Snoke has been interacting with Ben Solo before Ben Solo ever fully turned to the dark side. Because Luke tells Rey that he could feel that Snoke had already turned his mind.
Yeah.
So we know that Ben Solo has been talking with Snoke before this point in time. Something that it does mention in the synopsis for the comic books, though, is that Snoke has interesting and dangerous ideas about the Force that Kylo Ren didn't know about previously. So I think that Snoke came to Kylo Ren as sort of this confidant, or Ben Solo at this point in time, as a confidant, as a friend, very similar to the way Palpatine approached Anakin.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Where he says stuff like, oh, I really understand what it's like. I understand how you're feeling.
Yeah. Palpatine gives Anakin the impression that Obi-Wan is not teaching him everything that he should know. And then Anakin not only feels betrayed by Obi-Wan, but he has this craving for power and wants to learn more, which is the same thing that Kylo Ren must have felt while he was being approached by Snoke.
Absolutely. Anyway, jumping back into the first period that the comic book will explore, it says that Ben Solo at this point in time is kind of inexperienced. I get from the cover, he looks about 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Which gives us a pretty good idea about how long he's been training with Luke. We see that he has a blue lightsaber. It doesn't look like the blue lightsaber that we see in The Last Jedi, actually. And also, Luke Skywalker has a green lightsaber, but it also doesn't look like his Return of the Jedi lightsaber. And I wanted to touch upon this because it's possible each of them constructed separate lightsabers, but it could also just be a part of the illustration. And Luke absolutely has his Return of the Jedi green lightsaber.
Yeah.
And that is the lightsaber that belonged to Ben Solo. I just wanted to point out that they look very different.
It's safe to assume that if Luke had a Jedi academy where he was teaching multiple Jedi the ways of the Force, they've probably constructed a few lightsabers.
Right. Anyway, so they go back and they encounter the Knights of Ren. And this is kind of where I want to talk about the one Knight of Ren with a lightsaber. I think right now the most popular theory is that the Knights of Ren are worshippers of the Sith and the dark side of the Force. And potentially this one Knight of Ren, which we both theorize is the leader, has this lightsaber because he may have some small affinity with the Force or the dark side, or maybe none at all. Who knows? But they did actually get an ancient archaic Sith weapon, which is, of course, the leader would use. Which would make sense why later on Kylo Ren is the only Knight of Ren with the lightsaber. Because now he's the new leader.
And it's also, we both speculate that it's very possible that Kylo Ren kills this leader because this leader is nowhere to be found anywhere else in concept art or any of the film set photos that we've seen. So,
and the other Knights of Ren, you can't actually see them.
They're all completely recognizable in the comic except for this one. So it would make sense if Kylo Ren maybe challenged him for like the role as leader or something and then defeats him. And now because Kylo Ren's the leader, he's now the only one who gets to wield the lightsaber. It's also very possible that lightsabers are just kind of scarce or hard to actually construct.
They're very scarce. I mean, the Empire had all of them destroyed.
Yeah,
it was illegal to possess a lightsaber.
So like there's not enough for the whole team.
Right, exactly.
So the leader gets it, but nobody else.
I would be interested to see what actually happens with this red lightsaber ultimately. It could turn out that the leader could be killed by Luke Skywalker or a young Ben Solo.
Yeah, that is possible.
But more jumping back in time to Ben Solo's actual turn to the dark side of the Force, Luke does mention, I believe in The Last Jedi, that Kylo brought a group of students with him. But now it sounds very much like they didn't go with him, they didn't join him, that they are actually pursuing him.
Yeah.
And I think that that's honestly what's happening. And I think that Kylo, after he becomes the leader of the Knights of Ren, it's very much possible that with the group, they then killed these Jedi. Because you and I were talking about, it mentions other places in Star Wars lore that Luke Skywalker did not take on students immediately after Return of the Jedi. His first student was Leia, and then after Leia decided that she wanted to pursue more political aspirations rather than aspirations having to be a Jedi, Ben Solo, I think it's inferred for a large amount of his training, was the only student that he had.
Yeah. And it's also quite possible that Luke doesn't actually even know what happened to his students. He might just be assuming. Because if the students assumed that Luke Skywalker had died, it's got to be because they didn't see each other after the attack. So it's possible that if Ben Solo had left, the pursuit to find Ben Solo could have happened immediately before, say, Luke was able to recover or maybe get himself out.
I think
of
that's
rubble.
exactly what happened.
Yeah, so it would make sense for Luke not to actually even know what happened. He could have just assumed that Ben Solo took his students, when in reality he was pursued by his students.
Right. So we know one thing for sure is these Jedi students are nowhere to be found in anything beyond this point in time. So they will die out. I don't think they'll just go into hiding and give up after not being able to find Luke.
Yeah.
They'll certainly be killed off. We just don't know whether it'll be the Knights of Ren or Snoke. I think it will be the Knights of Ren simply for the fact that this is being released in conjunction with The Rise of Skywalker. And Snoke is a character whose story came to an end in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, there's no real reason to expand on it beyond that.
Right, there's no reason to buff up Snoke before the release of The Rise of Skywalker. So I think it would make sense for the Knights to actually kill these these students of Luke Skywalker and not actually...
And it also demonstrates their power, too, because it's probably not an easy feat to kill Luke's Jedi students. I'm sure that they're all probably very well skilled and they all probably have Force abilities where the Knights of Ren, I assume, most likely do not have Force abilities. So for them to be able to kill Luke's students, it would be an impressive feat on their behalf. And that makes them not only more interesting in the Rise of Skywalker, but as I assume they will all meet their demise in the Rise of Skywalker, it'll be a more impressive feat for them to all die too, however that happens in the film.
Right. So that's pretty much it. We broke it all down, honestly. Some major theories were recently thrown out the window for the Knights of Ren. Of course, the most prominent one being that they were Luke's fallen students, which now makes sense as to why they're not seen wielding lightsabers, because the Knights of Ren are a group that existed seemingly decades before Luke's students were killed. And I do think that the Knights of Ren will end up taking out Luke Skywalker's Jedi students after they pursued Kylo Ren and Ben Solo. And I think after Ben Solo goes to Snoke kind of turns him more to the dark side, but also points him in the right direction with the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, makes sense.
Anyway, guys, that's just kind of our thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on this major update for the Knights of Ren, Luke's students, Ben Solo, all in the comments down below. Of course, when the Rise of Kylo Ren eventually does come out, I will be covering every single issue. So if you want to stay up to date with that, hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button again. Sorry, said that already. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.